Hey, Wen and Kevin, we're just getting started. This live just starting up, so I'm gonna give TikTok a moment to spread the word. I know some people will doom scroll past as we're not getting anything going, but if you want to answer the question, the two-party system is not working, what do you think we should do? We're gonna have a little Q&A. I'm gonna answer the questions I see come by in the comments, and then people can join as a guest as well. Crazy Veggies, you want to jump right in? Let's just give it a minute, Crazy Veggies, for more people to join, and then we'll get started on this topic for today. This is the second live today. If you haven't followed already, please follow, where I'm jump on lives usually about twice a day, 1 to 2 times a day. I'm going to have regularly scheduled shows. I'm also on YT live at the same time, so we do these concurrently. And if you haven't subscribed over there, please do. My audience here on TikTok is growing very quickly. On the YT side, much slower because it's a little harder to make inroads on YT until I get to at least 1,000 subscribers. So if anyone can do that, you can subscribe over there as well. That would be really helpful. And let's see if anyone start electing people at the local level to build power bottom up. Haitian Forever, welcome back. That's a great way as well, right? But the problem is the two parties there as well. But obviously, I think you have more decency or an integrity at the local level. So that's certainly one way to do it. I think there's probably, I like to go top down because I think top down is louder. I think you can get the message out more and you can build obviously much bigger communities of people and a much bigger movement that people want to do that. So we know the two-party system is not working. Well, I think so. You can tell me in the comments if you're MAGA or you're liberal or somewhere in between. I'd like to know if anyone thinks it's actually working for the people, right? Of course, it's functioning in some capacity, but it's not functioning at how it's designed. Well, how it's truly supposed to be. The vision was for the people, by the people. So we know it's not working for everyone in that capacity or anyone except for the billionaires, the corporations, the foreign agents, foreign governments, Christian nationals, the corporate dictators, and so forth, right? There's just so many forces that are infiltrating our government and our politicians don't represent us. They represent the big money, the greed. We all know it. So that's the question. How are we going to, if the two-party system is not working, what do you think we can do? Do you think the pendulum has to swing the other way and all of a sudden the blue party, which also accepts incredible amounts of money from George Soros and workers' unions and other aspects, that they're going to fix it, the ACLU, and some of these organizations aren't necessarily inherently bad, but the problem is when you take money and you promise someone a favor, that's called bribery. And legally, it's called lobbying, right? So the problem is, well, it's not really, it's paid lobbying, right? So as Anne Sanfran says, end lobbying. And I agree. And I think she means paid lobbying. And I want to make that distinction between paid lobbying and regular lobbying. If you had representatives that represented the people, they can't know everything about everything, right? They can't know everything about the gas and oil industry. They can't know everything about agriculture. They can't know everything about technology and so forth. So lobbying is a necessary thing for governments. Even foreign governments having lobbying in our government is not bad. It's the paid lobbying. It's the bribery. Is if you're paying someone to do them a favor, that's where the real nefarious stuff happens. What we should have is, whether it's corporations or a foreign ally or even adversary, they should come in and be able to speak to our representatives, but not behind the scenes and not pay them to do something in their best interest. So them informing our representation, but representation needs to be for the people, by the people first and foremost. But regular lobbying, there needs to be a way for corporations and for our allies and even our adversaries and even religious groups to communicate to their government what they would like to see. The problem is it has to be only if the representatives have the people in mind first and foremost, meaning their constituents. And then, so it's When you talk about lobbying, end all lobbying, it's a little bit more nuanced than just ending all lobbying. You need to make sure you ending political paid lobbying so that things are a little bit more transparent, right? If you want to come in front of our Congress people and lobby for something, number one, it shouldn't be behind the scenes. It shouldn't be done in secret unless it's totally national security related. It should be done out in the open. And money should have no place in this world, at least in my opinion. Welcome, Mr. Global. Good to see you again. I don't hear you that loud. You're a little bit low. Oh, that might be on my side. Hold on. I think that's on my side. And I think that's on me. Let's see. How's that?
Check.
Yeah, much better. Okay. So the people, anybody on YouTube probably wasn't hearing me at all for a few minutes. So,
Well, you sounded fine,
okay. On
at least
TikTok.
from the TikTok.
Yeah, on the TikTok side, I think on going through my computer on the YouTube side, it's a little bit of a complicated wiring mess to make sure that you can broadcast on multiple platforms with different, vertical versus horizontal. Takes a while to figure it out. All right, so we had someone in the queue that's been waiting, Crazy Veggie, so we're going to have him come in first. We have a pretty good audience now, so we may as well get started with some of the guests and see if Crazy Veggies is still around.
Yep, promotion. Tap the screen, y'all. Trying to get the algorithm to spread the message.
What's up, man?
Hey, Crazy Veggies, what's up? You've been here before, right?
Yeah. We talked about the founders and whatnot, and
Oh yeah.
George Washington.
Okay, I
Thomas
think
Jefferson.
you're Gen Z, aren't you?
Me? No, I'm 32.
Okay, so millennial.
I mean,
you're on the cusp.
I'm like on the border.
Right.
I
Okay.
mean, I'm like 3-4 years off. So I mean, you could say, but yeah, I mean.
All right, cool. So let's continue a little bit. Let's do it within 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll move to somebody else. So unless it's going really, really well, then we'll continue. So the two-party system is not working. What do you think we should do? Or maybe you think it's working.
Me?
Yeah, I'm asking you. Yeah.
Yeah, two-party system, I think it's pretty bad. I think both sides are just kind of like playing the game together, you know what I mean? Like I think it's kind of like, you ever go to like a party and you got like a couple people, that are like in competition and like they're like arguing back and forth, but you know that they're secretly like best friends, you know what I mean? Like I somehow believe that's the truth, you know what I mean? Like they may hate each other, but like I think they're best friends.
More like strange bedfellows, I guess is the expression, right?
Yeah, like Grindr, how it lights up every time there's like a convention. I'm pretty sure underground they're best friends, you know what I mean? Like everything for show is like what's popping up on the news, but I'm 100% sure they're best friends.
Yeah, when the cameras aren't around, right? They're communicating a little bit more cordially.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, they're just doing this for show, you know what I mean? Like it's just a psyop, you know what I mean? Like cuz like who else is going to like vote? You know, like if they don't do this, like they're not going to pull in voters because like this is like how TikTok works too, like it just drives like the algorithm, the more attention you get.
Yep.
So like these people are like basically a bunch of clowns in my opinion. So yeah, two-party system's kind of trash. I think the power should be in like the people to like all individually be able to elect like by like, their phone or something, like just make it as easy as possible, you know what I mean, for people to just pick and choose rather than having to choose like a party or something.
Oh, like, please don't allude to technology as the solution, though. Please, I've watched this for the past 25 years of technology sort of destroying society and civility in our politics.
Yeah,
I think you've watched a couple movies though, TK. The future is inevitable though, right? I mean, at some point we're gonna have to use it to some advantage.
What, to elect officials? You think no? Why change it? Like obviously it's already problematic the way it is, but you're going to make it worse.
I don't know.
Oh.
Well, think about it. You go to the poll, right?
Maybe
And what do you do at the poll? You have like a machine, right, that you have to like select.
They're not connected.
So, like,
they're not connected to a network. In most cases, they're not connected to a network.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're worried about like being like connected to the internet, like how it just went down because of AWS, right?
Yeah,
So,
if
like,
anything is connected to a network, it can be, in fact, it can be manipulated, right? It can be hacked. Everything on a network can be hacked, always.
Yeah, that's true.
And
but like all you
I
have
get
to do
that.
is encryption. You know what I mean? Like if you could find a way to encrypt it and like use like Starlink or something to connect everybody to like a server.
The problem you always have is not just even if it is going to get hacked, which it will, let's say it didn't, there's a perception that it might or is being hacked. And perception, you know, I always say this, perception is reality, and people think it's just an expression. It's not. It's not just an expression. It's actually how people behave and act based on that perception. It is a form of their truth, right? So even if something is not hacked and they believe it to be hacked, you're still screwed.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, it's already like that though, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's like it could make it worse, but I also feel like maybe if there's a way to do it where it's like a private government like satellite, you know what I mean, that provides like a single server, like, you know, just like so that it's like in fully encrypted and like has like the highest levels of security, you know what I mean?
You know,
DK ain't buying it. He's not buying it.
no, I mean, the blockchain would be the only one that has merit where you can put it on the blockchain and then you had some sort of receipt and you could show it and everything's transparent on the blockchain. But then you have to worry about quantum computing in the future as well. Like at the end of the day, everything's going to be hacked, can be hacked. So I think that's the least of our problems, just like that. So we're on total agreement that the two-party system is not working and we need to do it. The how we actually vote, that's a whole different ballgame, right?
Yeah, that's
We
the
just want to be
method,
able to
right?
sit at home and vote on our phone like we are on TikTok right now. That's it. We just don't want to go anywhere. That's the thing.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like going to the polls, man. I see too many like strange people like going to the polls, you know what I mean? Like it just kind of
You
feels
know, democracy
like
and civics is such a bitch. You know, once every couple of years or every year, you got to go to the polls, or you know, or you do that funky mail-in ballot thing. You know, I know it's just so awful.
I just don't like standing next to somebody that's voting opposite of me anymore. You
When's
know
the
what I
last
mean? Like
time
I
you
feel
got out
like
of the
it's
house?
kind of dangerous. No, I don't even go outside,
You
honestly.
see
Because if
that? There you go.
I went outside in the past week, right? I went twice. I went outside twice to go to the store, and both times, like every single time, like as soon as I walk through, I get my stuff. I'm at the checkout, right? And all of a sudden, I'll like look to my left, and somebody walks through the door, and it's like some MAGA person, and they're all stiff and like acting tough, walking through, like probably packing. You know what I mean? And I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, get me out of here, get me out of here, get me out of here. You know what I'm saying? Me and my little taser in my pocket. I'm
My
like,
little
dude.
taser. That's funny.
This guy has an AR-15 and Crazy Veggies here sitting there with his taser. I'm going to take him out.
Hey, bear
Yeah,
spray.
bro. I mean, I got bear spray too. Actually, I got the full can, like full
Yeah.
size. Put it in my back pocket. Yeah, I don't believe in guns, to be honest. Like, I believe they exist, but I believe in the right to own one. But I just don't believe in the finality of like that whole thing. I'd rather just like deter people type of deal.
Yeah,
It's
right
such a
on.
weak human being to want to use firearms to take out innocent people, you know?
Or even honestly, just someone that hurts your feelings. You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody just says you're a bad guy. You know what I mean? In
Well,
some more
here's the model.
derogatory term.
I am pro 2A, because at the end of the day, American has a steep gun culture. You're not getting guns out of Americans' hands, nor should we try. It's steeped in gun culture. With that said, it is like what you're saying. It's kind of ridiculous that we have to be worried about people getting shot because, we're human beings after all, and we have emotions. And some people actually, do nefarious things like take illegal substances and other things and are highly emotional. And, maybe they had a really bad day and they're packing heat and you end up, just walking in front of their path. That's the
Wrong
ridiculousness.
place, wrong time.
Wrong
Yeah.
place, wrong time. People are, they can have bad days and do really stupid shit, right?
Yep.
That's the
Yeah,
problem
I've
with.
been involved in that.
Oh, you have
Yeah,
been?
it's dangerous.
Yeah. All right.
Like
Well,
you said,
cool. Well,
one
thanks
wrong
for
time,
joining, Crazy
but
Veggies. I'm going to have someone else join in, or you're welcome to sit in as well. But I want to make sure we get to enough people, if there's even other people waiting, which there's not. So I guess we'll just continue. All right. So take anything I just said in the last 10 seconds back.
Oh, I was gonna say you got like 64 people in here, so I was like, yeah, you gotta have more people, but maybe
Yeah.
they're not like not wily today.
Yeah. So
They
let
don't
me
argue.
preface this with
Tuesday.
the two-party system is not working. So there's been a lot of new people on the lives and on my videos, and sometimes I skip over the really important things I like to mention, which is the two-party system is not working. I think the vast majority of Americans would agree with that, because the people who are our representatives don't represent us. They represent, obviously, all the different special interests that are trying to get them into office and all their interests and so forth. So my point is always, I don't know. I just don't see a path that we can get the money out of politics, get the politicians out of being politicians, other than serving temporarily, which is sort of always my preaching that we need a 29th and 28th and 29th Amendment. One means that elections need to be publicly funded and there's no money coming from special interest. And the 29th Amendment should be that being a politician is a temporary civic service and not a career. And then at that point, but people then say, well, the existing politicians will never vote for that, or the two parties. And you're absolutely right. The two parties will never vote because they can't even vote for like banning stock trading. It's ridiculous. If they're threatening their power or their position staying in politics, they're never going to vote for it. And they're never going to vote out or prevent like a 28th Amendment from coming to pass because they benefit from reaping the money that's being put into the system by those special interests. So I'm looking for someone else to give me another way. I'm always looking for alternative ways. But at the end of the day, in order to have a potential 28th and 29th Amendment, which does seem to cross all political, cross the political spectrum, that there's a way to do it, but it's going to take 50 to 70 million people who decide like, okay, I'm sick of the Republican Party. I'm sick of the Democratic Party. And we need to build a coalition of people who just want to do two simple things: get rid of the greed, get rid of the money, and get rid of all career politicians. And then so for those of you that are new to this channel, that's what I'm always advocating for. We will talk about issues at time, blue and red issues, but at the end of the day, those are just distractions. If you truly want to fix the American political system, I just can't, I know it's a big lift, but I just can't possibly see any other way to get there without a large, independent, centrist movement that is against the two-party system. So if you're new, that's sort of always this position on these lives.
That's the spiel.
That's the spiel.
Really
That's right.
there's not a lot of argument for that, right? I think everybody's on board.
Yeah, but sometimes you notice in these lives, I forget to mention it clearly. We might reference the 28th Amendment or the 29th once in a while, but we don't mention how it could be done, or we're sort of beating around the bush. And I just have to remember to constantly try and bring everybody up to speed, that because most people will say, not most, but maybe most will say it's impossible, or it will never happen. It's certainly not impossible. It's certainly improbable, but it's not impossible. And those who say it never will happen, they're also right. It will never happen if you don't have enough people. I mean, this is so binary. It's unbelievable. Like that's almost unbelievable. If you have enough people that want to do it, it can happen and it will happen. If you don't have enough people, it absolutely won't happen, right? This is really binary stuff. And it's sort of just a mind shift that people have to make. Because when I hear the comments, it's impossible. Well, that's not true. It's not impossible. That's a different comprehension of the definition of the word impossible. And if they say it will never happen, that's their feelings because they've been conditioned to believe that it can't happen. And
Here's a take, TK.
Okay.
What if Donald Trump was the one that passed the 28th and the 29th Amendment?
Absolutely. Go for I don't give a shit who it is. Yeah, do it.
Would he change your mind? Would you like him? I don't know you. You don't hate him. You just don't. You think he's kind of a despicable individual.
That's right. I think he's a despicable human being, and it could never happen, and he would never do that because of he's a despicable human being, because it would change everything for how he transacts with his relationships. But if, let's say, theoretically it happened, I'll sign up. But it's not. He can't just say it. And obviously he can't do it because he's president, right? This has to happen at the congressional level with 2/3 of the Congress or the state legislatures doing it. But if he were promoting it and getting enough people on board, because these two things, you solve those two things and everything else starts to cure itself. So
we just need to talk to him.
Yeah, he might do it, honestly, if he was convinced by like one of his, loyal supporters. But why do we have like two parties? Why did it form two parties? You know what I mean? Like, was it like some kind of like overarching reason that makes sense, or is it just like random?
It comes
They're just
down,
like, we're gonna go here and we're gonna go there.
yeah, it's a great question. It's something that I've thought about a lot. It really comes down to the winner take all process that we have. In other countries, you have coalitions that formed, right? But the way the electoral system is given, it's winner take all. You have to win the entire state to get the electoral votes. So what ends up happening just over time, you could start out with 5 parties, but it always will whittle down to 2 because these coalitions form. And so like you've had lots of other parties in the past, and they've ended up being absorbed by a party. You can say MAGA was an independent party, and they took over the Republican Party, and now it's one and the same. So you end up having a duopoly system because it's winner take all. It's sort of like a sports game. It's sort of like a sports event where 2 teams need to play to win the game. If you have too many, it's harder to get to that, plurality? Is that the right word? What's the definition of plurality? Might be using that word in wrong context. But that's basically why it is. So we used to have many other we used to have many other parties, and they just always end up being absorbed by some party or the other one. You know, they end up creating coalitions, and then one party becomes gone, and then you're just stuck with a duopoly. If you had representation that wasn't winner take all, then you'd have more options, most likely. Or if you weren't voting for candidates and you were voting for parties, so let's say in Germany or I think England, you might have 5 parties and you vote for the party, not the person. And then the party picks the person for that, right? So you're sort of voting for ideologies.
Oh wow, I wouldn't like that at all. Yeah, I'm actually really against parties at all. Like I think the parties are kind of what's the problem. Like, 'cause think about it, it's like if you form yourself into like a party, now that's like a separate thing from the people in the party. Now you have this like party platform that you like orchestrate like all your like, policies and like what you stand for and whatnot. And that kind of takes its own like, separate kind of power structure, I feel like, underneath like the government or something, it feels like. And then the people just kind of funnel themselves into it, and say, well, I agree with this, and this. And it's like, it's almost like a tool more than it is like an actual real thing, you know what I mean? Because like how many actual Republicans or, Democrats are fully kind of like capable of seeing like through their kind of like, that entity or that
Well, it's
like
just
thing.
easier if you're not paying attention. You kind of align yourself to an ideology. You're working, you're busy, maybe you're working hard, you have a family, and you don't know every issue. So all you're trying to do is back a party that sort of might have your best interests in mind. At least that's in theory, right? But to your point, do you think any of the founding fathers knew about the parties being an issue or being a concern?
Yeah, 100%. I'm pretty sure it was like, said like, like, or there's things in the Constitution, I feel like. I don't know exactly what. I'm not like an expert in the Constitution, but I'm pretty sure I read before there's barriers to like prevent things that are happening today from happening. But somehow or another they've went around it, you know what I mean? It's
Well,
not hard to do that, right?
yeah, Joel, just so you know, I wasn't meaning to put you on the spot, and I hope I wasn't, but it was sort of a segue because I know you're pretty knowledgeable about some of these things. And it was, if you think about the founding fathers, George Washington, in his farewell address, in his very first, so he was the first president, of course. So in 1796, he gave a powerful warning about political parties and their divisive effects on a nation. His message remains one of the most frequently cited parts of the address because he said, political factions, what we now call political parties, could become dangerous to national unity. He believed they would divide citizens into rival groups rather than unite them under a shared national interests. He also believed they would encourage revenge and domination as one party. This is astonishing because it just goes today's environment. As one party would try to gain and hold power at the expense of the other, and it would distract leaders from their duties to the people and make them more loyal to party than to country. Like, think about the absurdity. And he knew this in 1796, that parties would end up just being more loyal to each other, meaning, in this case, Congress more loyal to the president. And it would also invite foreign influence. So think about this, invite foreign influence, since outside powers could exploit internal divisions to weaken the nation. Like, just mind blown in that 1796 that he basically predicted everything that's been happening, not just now, but for over the last 100 years, 200 years.
Yeah, and that's why he was one of the founding fathers, right? He was a smart man. Like the people that founded the country were not stupid. You know, they were pretty smart. They may have had like from the time, they had some different views and different like, things they were doing. But I mean, in general, they were not, uneducated people, I don't think,
Well, if you
So
watch
they
their,
were very ahead of their
yeah, if you
time.
look at their writings, not just, they had moral complications, right? They had 18th century morals, as I always like to say. So they were imperfect human beings that had moral challenges of the 18th century. But they weren't just pretty smart. These people were scholars, they were lawyers, they were historians. These people were brilliant, especially when you put them together to figure out, what's the way. If you look at their writings, very few people even today would be able to have the kind of foresight and ability and comprehension of politics like they did at that time. It's astonishing. Like, I guess we didn't live in that time, so we don't know what it was like, but we just think, 300 years ago, people weren't as intelligent as they are today. And that's absolutely not true, right? You can go back to whether it was Einstein or go back to the founding fathers or even go back to, 1500s and 1400s with various writings. Like, we sometimes think we have recency bias, thinking that just because there's so much more information available to us today, that people today must be much more knowledgeable than they were back then. And I think that's a fallacy. And I think we got to be careful of that.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I've said that before because there's like a thing where like too much knowledge or too much information, it's like a garbage trap. And I think a lot of people have like a garbage trap mind nowadays, so they only see through like a very small lens because they're overwhelmed with like so much like different types of information, right? So their ability to think and like problem solve is like limited by that little bit of like space that they can really see like problems. Because like most of the problems I think they see are not really existing, they're just made up stuff and like half of it's fake and half of it's like real, but it's only a little bit that they understand about it, right? Because back then they didn't have all this, they just if they were able to just sit in a room by themselves, right, they could just do that
Well,
and be unbothered.
they read something called books, like really
Yeah, they sat
long
and read.
books.
That's
Well,
amazing, right? Like I couldn't imagine doing that today like they did back then. For like maybe even like a couple hours, like I would feel like I was, I don't know, bored. I'd be like
they
in
didn't
total
have any
pain.
other option though. What else would they be doing besides being out in nature, you know? Like how else would you entertain yourself?
Well, I equate it
A
to
game of cricket.
my TikTok video that I posted that now has 250,000 views. I did a 5.5 minute TikTok and I was like, oh shit, this thing is going to fail. Like, but I wanted to say what I had to say because 5.5 minutes, who's going to watch a 5.5 minute video? Well, apparently 250,000 people did, which was amazing, which I was like, oh, wow. Okay. People actually will not doom scroll. And it had a pretty good rate all the way through the video. Of course, not everybody watched the whole thing. But it shows that if you can present nuanced information in a way that makes sense to people, people will listen, right? But we're so conditioned, even myself, who's Gen X now, like, short form content, if I can get it faster and more succinct, I'll take it all day long. But the problem is we miss so much important nuance when we do it that way.
Exactly. You can't get the full story in a 30-second or a 60-second synopsis like a short video. Like everything's so much more deep than even a 5-minute video can
Yeah.
purvey, you
And then we
know?
become very judgmental based on that very limited amount of information. Then we start to make firm, clear judgments, which are wholly incomplete.
Speculative. Yeah, it's speculation. A lot of it is speculative.
Yeah. And going back to education of history as well. So the center of the universe for education, just even how many years ago was this? So 300 years, 400 years, 500 years. So not, I mean, most people think the center of the universe for education was, various places in Europe. Well, before Europe, it was actually Iran. Iran, most of the stars in our sky are named after our Arabic names. And it's because the center of education of the world in the 1200s, 1300s? I'm not sure of the dates. But anyway,
I'll look it up.
the center of education in the world used to be Tehran. Like there's highly educated populace, and they still are today, even through up until 1970. That's when obviously the religious fascists came to power, and that's when obviously women could no longer be educated and so forth. But people think that the parts of the Middle East are just not that well educated. Oh, you got it completely wrong. There's still a deep cultural education, appreciation for education in many parts of the Middle East, but it moved from the Middle East after the religious domination of various groups within Iran and Iraq took over, and it sort of moved all the scholars, sort of like the nuclear scientists moved after World War II or during World War II to the United States, and we had that knowledge base came to the United States in the Middle East, where it used to be the center of education. It ended up moving to Europe because many of the scholars at that time that were being persecuted for various beliefs and so forth, because they weren't religious beliefs, they were more scientific. They ended up moving to Europe, and then places like Germania and Rome and other places became sort of the education hubs of the world. And again, even what I just said is just so high level. It's missing incredible amounts of nuance that's important to understand that period of time and how, education has evolved.
I'm
Yeah, I
looking
mean,
it up now.
it's different than today. I feel like today they just kind of put people in like school, and they just kind of, it's almost like so routine. There's not much, I don't know, like much time to really spend, like actually, like maybe critically thinking. It's mostly just like, regurgitating material at this
Yeah.
point. Like, I don't know. I mean, unless you go to a private school or like a really good school, or like a Montessori school, it's kind of, public school is kind of just, yeah, it's wishy-washy
What's going to
compared
happen
to
with
probably
what's
back
going to
then.
happen now with AI, right? When you don't have to learn anything, you just can recall the information when you need it. I mean, AI is going to be, how it's going to truly make a society of zombies.
Yeah.
It's already there, man. I don't know if you've talked to any youth, but yeah, they can't read. A lot of them. Like if you look it up, I mean, there's a lot of news about it. There's a lot of brain rot,
Yeah.
content, and a lot of them are hooked on that. And I think that their memories are just like fried. Like they can't pay attention for longer than like a few minutes before they have to get something else.
And they know how
And it
to
doesn't mean
game,
they're not
man.
smart.
They're expert gamers.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like I quit actually playing competitive because I can't compete with like today's like 16-year-olds.
That's
It's
funny that
literally
my son
impossible.
said the same exact thing. He says, he used to enjoy playing games, but he can't even enjoy because it's so competitive and they're so good because they spend so much time that there's no enjoyment whatsoever. Because unless you're devoting enormous amounts of time to it, it's just a waste of time. You're just going to get, if you're playing a first person shooter, you're dead, before you're unalived immediately.
Yeah, dude, it's brutal. I'm not gonna lie. I used to be able to
Skill
get like
issue.
I know, and that's what they say. It's like a skill issue, and I'm like, yo, like I have a whole life, bro. You know what I mean? And it's like you're 16, bro. I was like that before too.
Oh, don't
Even
go
the
that far
19,
that you
20
have a
year
whole
olds.
life. You just said you've been out of the house twice this week. So I'm a little skeptical about your life
Oh,
here.
for sure, yeah. But that's the thing. Like, I don't live in society. I don't feel like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I live like in my universe. No, I'm kidding. But it's yeah, it's kind of silly, kind of
You
where
can
gaming's going actually. Like, I
you
play
can
most
compare
like
it to billionaires. Just
oh, they don't go nowhere, right? They
the
stay in their
wage
mansion.
gap, it's the skill gap, These guys are just so much more into it, so much more time.
Mary Jane says, I can't talk on the phone to it's creepy. I hang up. Yeah, it's a
It is
problem.
creepy. I just
It's
tried
a good
chat.
point. It gets creepy when people can't communicate in public or on a phone. It just feels creepy.
There's a trend with like Gen Z where like when they answer the phone, they don't say anything.
I
Like, because
hate
they're trying
that.
to see if
I
it's like AI,
hate it.
Like I don't know what that is, but I guess it makes sense. But anymore, I don't trust it either. Like answering the phone because someone could have like an app that records your voice, and then they could just plug that into an AI, and now they've got your voice, and they can like call like
Hmm.
your doctor's office and make an appointment for you, or they could call your credit card company and they could like pretend to be you. And if you've been leaked on like the dark web or something, right, or Doc's been, then now they can just, you know what I'm saying? Like today's technology is getting out of hand unless they put up some kind of safeguard or they work to like kind of get ahead of it, it's going to start spiraling really quick. It's already spiraled with the healthcare facilities. They've hacked into a lot of those.
Well, that's the
So
point of
it's just
government. Government is supposed to regulate, right? Yeah. And as animated GIF says here, regulate AI immediately. So this is my, I want to comment on animated GIF. This is the one that behooves me or is just so confusing. So when nuclear technology came out, of course, when we dropped the 2 nuclear bombs, nuclear technology was quickly protected by various governments, right? It was not allowed to be commercially utilized without certain consent and regulations. Now we have AI that certainly seems very much, as dangerous or worse in the future. And it's just it's in the hands of for-profit companies. And it seems like there's no government oversight whatsoever. And it's just, when it's something's for-profit companies only, what could go wrong? Like the absurdity of that AI has no regulation and it's just governments like China might be more involved with what's happening in their commercial industry and AI in order to leverage it for their own interest. And I'm sure we're doing the same, but it's just like the cat's out of the bag and we're not doing anything to protect society, which is the whole function of government, right?
Well, nuclear stuff too. Wasn't it like, obviously, say like nuclear came on the scene, right? It was this big thing. Everybody was super interested in it. We started testing it. Probably without any regulation, they just started messing with it and playing with it, right? Like little apes, like little
What do you mean?
primates.
The
And
scientists or the corporations?
the scientists with nuclear, like, was there any regulation with any of that stuff in the beginning, or were they just kind of like the Wild West with it? They could do whatever.
I don't know the
I
exact
watched
dates.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I watched Oppenheimer as well. There you go. So now we know everything, right?
Yeah, no, it didn't say everything, but
No, it
I don't
didn't.
know that there was regulation there, right?
They were pretty quickly. The scientists knew, the governments knew they couldn't get this technology into the hands of commercial interest or foreign adversaries. So it was highly, highly protected. Then over time, there were commercial applications. And when you have a commercial application, the refinery of uranium is much less, right? It's a much lower bar, just like Iran has nuclear power plants, but they want to make a bomb. The enrichment process is much more complicated to make a bomb. So they allowed corporations to refine uranium for obviously the energy sector and other aspects, but it was completely regulated by the government. Now, overnight after 1945, no, I'm sure it took some time, but at the end of the day, government controlled it and government scientists controlled it, and it was put on lockdown essentially. And that, of course, is not happening with AI whatsoever, right? It's basically like, oh, let's just see where this goes. And maybe we're going to cure cancer, but then maybe the entire world is going to go away, right? All humanity is going to cease to exist. So we cured cancer, but we're going to destroy humanity. So that sounds like a win.
It's like
Yeah.
transhumanism is the movement. You know what I mean? It's almost like humans aren't human enough. So it's actually like, like we're trying to evolve into like cyborgs or something with AI is like their goal, I think.
Yeah. What do you guys
These
think
rich
about this
people,
comment?
yeah, they.
Sorry, go ahead.
You go.
Game Lion on YouTube has a comment. 80% of Americans are decent people. Around 20% are on the predatory personality spectrum, cluster B disorders. I wonder if that's just a guesstimate or there's actually some facts, but what do you guys think about 80-20? Think 80% are decent, like high moral integrity people?
No, I mean, if you're talking like someone who you would want to like date your daughter if you had one, you know what I mean? Like I would say it's way less than 80, you know what I mean? But like I would say for the actual other part though, 20, that kind of tracks. I think it's something actually like about like 25% or something like that. People have like some kind of, it's like 1 in 4-ish. Someone that people have like some kind of mental health stuff going on that's like could be cluster B, but it could be like other stuff too. They're saying cluster B because that's like the psychosis or psychotic disorders, which are kind of like not really predatory, I wouldn't say, but those are more like people that could be dangerous, like if provoked or if incited or if like, they took some kind of drug or something or, it could be a lot of things, but I don't know if I agree with 80 though.
80 sounds a little high. But, obviously
I don't know.
it's not just 2 clusters, right? There's various forms of what type of values you have. Not everybody has to have the same value system. but people who are not complete narcissists or psychopaths or sociopaths, which there's a lot of those too. But I do believe the vast majority of normal Americans that want to live a good life, I think it's probably the majority.
It's probably growing because we're spending so much more time alone. Everybody is so much more separated nowadays. It seems like that you kind of stay in your mental bubble and your mind
Okay.
starts to create things that aren't based in reality, So it's
Well, I view it as we have a new guest here. Just hang on one second for, I don't know how to pronounce Ayo. I'll just go Ayo.
IOS is what I used to do in the military. And I have a question for you.
Yeah, please.
Okay, we used to have the Whig Party too. Okay,
We used to have the Know Nothing Party too, literally. The Know Nothing Party and the Whig Party, yeah.
but what do you think all that has gone?
What do you mean?
the Whig Party was for slavery, wasn't it?
No. The Democratic Party was for slavery. The Whig Party was part of the Quakers.
Just
Yep.
had it pulled up.
So what is your question, Ionis? Like we did have
So
many other
you
parties.
you don't think the two-party system is working? So what part of it is not working?
Well, when I say not working, I mean I can't. The prompt is small. It's not working for representing the people, representing everyday Americans, right? Either party is not representing. It's working in its current form as representing special interests and religious groups and foreign governments and foreign agents. So it's not like it's not functioning. It is functioning. It's just not functioning the way it was designed to, which
Well, no, actually, the Magna Party today is because if you read George Washington's farewell address, we shall owe nothing to any other nation or become an ally to other nations without getting repercussions for ourselves.
Can you say that again? Rephrase it.
In other words, George Washington said, we will not go into another nation without getting something for ourselves on top of it.
what he wasn't promoting an imperialism. Imperialism is when you basically conquer other nations. You go to other nations and conquer them, right?
He was talking about when we do deals, we have to come out on top. I mean,
Who
what
Trump
people,
is or George Washington is?
George Washington actually said that.
Okay, so
And
you think
that
the
is
MAGA
what
parties
Donald Trump is doing, and people are getting mad.
you think that's what Donald Trump's doing?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think he's following the law of the land? You think he's doing anything that's illegal against the Constitution?
No, I don't think he is. I'll tell you what. I served in 3 wars. I I was actually got picked up for a World Tribunal under Clinton, and he was willing to let me sit. The problem is, why are we fighting crap over there and not taking care of our home?
Why can't fighting? Have a responsibility as the most powerful nation in the world.
We don't.
Yes, of course we do.
No.
Yes, we do, because if not, the world falls apart and it ends up coming to our shores. If you don't know your history. That's not how this works.
I do know my history.
You don't know your history.
Okay, do you know how the U.S. Marines were founded then?
What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
Hold on, exactly what we're talking about.
All right, I'm going to bump you.
Okay,
You're slurring you're slurring your words a lot. All right.
From the shores of Tripoli.
All right. Someone else want to take it from here for?
Kind of made some sense, I guess. Not like what he was saying, but just his words. I could understand them. But no, yeah.
Well, he said he was ex-military, right? So
Yeah, for sure.
He's
I
probably
mean, like respect. You know?
self-medicating, and he maybe he likes Trump, and he's entitled to that opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. He's entitled to his opinion. I just don't necessarily have to agree with it and listen to it when people don't understand that we can do two things at once. Yes, we should be taking care of our military vets much better, our homelessness, all of our citizens. We should all be doing all of that. That doesn't mean we should recoil into isolationism and not be a part of the world order, because again, we set up this world order. This is the rules that we set up with globalism and free trade and allies and promoting democracy and promoting American values, which is freedom and liberty and diversity and hard work and law and order. This is the self-rule and a rules-based system. And that's what we stand for, a rules-based system. We're not supposed to be an authoritarianship. We're not supposed to be just whatever our current leader thinks we should do, we should do. It's supposed to be based on rules and laws. And that's what we've generally, even though we've made a lot of mistakes on that, so don't misinterpret what I'm trying to say, is if we believe in a system where around the world where there should be rules that are independent of leaders, just following a leader's directions, which is what every other aspect is, except for maybe communism in theory, but communism doesn't work like that. That's our responsibility. And that has always been our responsibility since the end of World War II, because prior to World War II, we were sort of isolated from the rest of the world. And we just said sort of an American first approach. And even George Washington, if he said something like that, I understand why, because it's just like, let's just worry about our home front. Let's not worry about anything else. But that's proven that doesn't work. And that's why we set up a new system. And that's what the system that we've been following for 85 years now, that has been incredibly beneficial to all Americans. So yeah, that's my spiel.
But I mean, isn't there a counter argument to that though, TK? Like if we're going to do this whole, you know, we're going to monitor the oceans. We're going to make sure that free trade is happening, right? We're the world's police, quote unquote, which is not necessarily true, but is not the right word to use.
For our oceans, I
There
think it
is
is, right?
Yeah, there is a consequence to that though, right? Which is the deindustrialization of our own country because we rely on these other countries so much. I mean,
Yeah,
there
but it's
has to
also,
be a balance,
yeah, there
right?
should be a balance. But saying if tariffs have been proven to fail. They're not a viable strategy to bring back industry in today's world system, where you have cars being made all over the world. You have technologies that you only can get from Amsterdam, and then other technologies you can only get from Taiwan. Like, we live in a globalized system. This is just the nature of technology and how much easier it is to transport goods around the world. You're not going backwards. So yes, there's an argument for it. Yes, there is. And maybe it shouldn't be as pronounced as it is. But again, our politicians and society has benefited greatly from, we don't want to produce, dolls that don't make us much money. We became more of a service-oriented economy. And big industries, we still have lots of oil and gas and so forth. We just didn't want to make the cheap things because we can't compete with that, because we had environmental protections and we had other bureaucracy that we wanted to live a higher quality of life. So we decided, okay, we're going to have these things made somewhere else on the backs of much cheaper labor, which overall, it didn't impact everybody positively, not by a long shot, right? We lost lots of steel manufacturers around the country, which was bad, and that's showing to be bad today. We didn't do our own fabs and have more chips made here. So there are lots of negative consequences. There's definitely an argument, like you said, Mr. Global, that there should be a better balance. But to say that it was bad for the economy, it wasn't. It was overall much better than it was worse.
Well, we had the huge scare with COVID. We got into that position of like having to really rely on these other countries that were shutting down or whatever. They weren't producing much, and then that kind of left us in this question of like, are we going to get the things that we need? Are they going to be able to provide those things?
Yeah,
But
the funny
that
thing.
was that
Yeah,
part.
sorry. Go ahead.
Trump said today, I saw some thing, media circus deal where he said that we've had $17 trillion worth of investment in this country from these companies, that he said that unless you bring your factories here, we're going to tariff you. So in order to avoid those tariffs, we need you to bring your manufacturing here on our soil. So I mean, we're still seeing all of this play out, right? Some of the things and products that I use for work have gone up, and then other things that I thought would have not. So I
We
think
could have.
he is trying to take a little bit of a strategy, though.
Well, the
It's not
tariff
just this
strategy is
like,
proven to be ineffective. You could have done is subsidize certain industries that you want to come back, like we're doing with the chips industry and Intel, to say we want to make chips here, so we're going to give you tax breaks and we're going to help you get established because we need this industry here. You don't have to do these random tariffs that impact the economy negatively and make everybody pay for these things that cost more. It's not targeted. It's just a wild west of tariffs that will end up hurting us, because what's going to happen inevitably is other trade partnerships will happen around the world, and you're seeing it already, and it's going to take even a little bit more time. I'm really worried about the stock market and the economy right now. It seems to be completely propped up by all this AI investment, but the rest of the economy is completely flat. So if a couple of banks start to fail or something happens, we're going to go back to 2008 again or 1999. And that's not out of the question because all the signals are there. And I think it's very likely, probably probable that's going to happen. And then what? Because we know the result of tariffs. It's been tried before. It sounds like, from a simpleton point of view, it sounds like, okay, maybe this could work because it does have some benefits. But overall, it's just not. Again, we're changing the rules of the game. And as the next administration, if it's proven not to work in the past, like, why are we doing it again? It doesn't make any sense.
I feel like it's a little too early to tell still. I mean, we're seeing signs, right?
Of what?
I just of the consequences or like the negative impacts that it can make. I haven't maybe necessarily firsthand felt those impacts yet.
Yeah, sometimes you feel them slowly in grocery prices and so forth, and it's hard to determine, is that just companies raising prices or is that actually, but most companies have said that they've passed along X percentage of that to the consumer, right?
Right.
I think, we had Appalachian on earlier. Welcome back.
Hey, what's up, brother?
What's up, man? How you doing? So
Is
what
it
do you think about the two-party?
Appalachian or is it Appalachian?
Appalachian, right?
It's Appalachian if you're local. Appalachian if you're outside of it.
So are you part of the Hatfields or the McCoys?
Actually, that's just right over the mountain from me. But yeah. So man, what do you think? So my area, if you look at the Bristol, Tennessee, like I said, the Kentucky, Southern Kentucky, the Southwest. I'm not West Virginia, but it's the southwestern part of Virginia. If you look right there in that corridor, we were mostly manufacturing. You know what I'm saying? From textile plants to your furniture, your so on and so forth. There's a lot of manufacturing, and whenever NAFTA happened, and I'm sorry, I won't point at NAFTA because I was, I'm born in '79, so I know NAFTA.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the areas around there, and I'm talking from what the company said. I know that's anecdotal, but from what the company said is that they were shutting down to go overseas. Either not technically, you don't have to actually go over the pond for that. It could be Mexico, whatever, but they are going to other places where they could get cheaper labor and free trade. And it lost it. A lot of people in my area, it left us behind. Does that make sense? So then what happened was that you have no jobs, welfare, we became more of like a welfare state, I guess you could say. People started turning towards the D-rugs or whatever. I don't know if you can say that on here or not, but so on and so forth. Because whenever you ain't making nothing, you're depressed. And I'll just give one example. It's like when you buy your first car, what's the first thing you do? You go all around town because it's an accomplishment. You want everybody to see your accomplishment. Nobody really wants to be fed for free, is basically what I'm saying, because you like to feel accomplished, basically.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, how do you think that that's going to come back? Because at some point, not everybody, you're hitting the point. Not everybody could be a service though. We can't be all the way across the United States as a service
Oh,
economy.
agree. Absolutely. By the way, how far from Johnson City, Tennessee are you?
About, well, as the crow flies, about 30 minutes.
Yeah, pretty close, right? Yeah. Okay.
As you drive, it's an hour.
Yep. I'm pretty familiar with that area. I've spent a lot of time doing some motorcycle racing in that area when I was younger. So I spent a lot of time in the South. So I have a lot of friends from the South. So
I'm from actually like the South Holston Lake area.
I don't know that particular area, but yeah.
Damascus, South Holston Lake. Damascus is part of the Appalachian Trail. It's the halfway mark. They got like this huge thing they do with the hikers and stuff
Right.
every year.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. So who, you all agree, like textiles, and I've seen it like in Orangeburg, South Carolina, that used to be a thriving community, you know, building industry and textiles as well. And now it's just this, you know, very desolate place, like many places in West Virginia and other areas like you're talking about. So who would you blame? Is it Bill Clinton's fault and the and the government, or do you blame the corporations? Which one?
I may be wrong. I may be wrong, man. I don't think it was. So I was told, because you know how when it comes to government, stuff is in the works, and a lot of times a president gets blamed, but it's shit that started before they became president. I was told that yes, Bill Clinton signed it, but that was in NAFTA was actually in works before that. I don't know how true that is. But like it was in the works, he just happened to be the president when it got pushed through.
So let's just think about it logically for a second, or just common sense. All right. So could you bring up a good point? We would have to do the research. I'm not going to say I know the answer to this question, whether it started under Reagan or Bush or Clinton, whatever it might be. But the politicians are pretty much getting the blame for this, right? Because at the end of the day, Clinton had to sign it, right?
Yeah.
But who do you think was most likely promoting this? Who wanted this to happen?
Well, the
corporations. Yeah. I
Right.
mean, it's just like in my area, you'll hear a lot of arguments about immigrants. You know, they're taking all the jobs, and really what it's taking is a lot of the farm work. I don't know if you ever worked a backer, but man, you talking about some like break your back shit. Well, a farmer, if he can pay for 3 immigrants to work as much as a person, a local, whatever, a citizen, Caucasian, whatever, of course he's going to pay. He's going to get 3 times the work for the same pay. Does that make sense? So the same thing with the corporations. If they can hire 3 or 4 people for the price of 1 American, of course you're going to, you know what I mean?
Right. So this goes to the point of, you know, in your area, probably very red and, extremely red and Trump supporters. Get it. No problem. Okay. But the thing is, you have to think and this is the nuance behind this stuff, is at the end of the day, we blame the politicians and they are certainly share in a lot of the blame, but we don't blame the corporations because they're the ones that were pushing for this, right? And they're the ones that even back then were manipulating our politicians because there were special interest money back then as well. They were helping them get elected. They were supporting them. Both parties have been taking money for a very long time. Obviously not as much since Citizens United. Now that's completely basically unregulated. But the politicians have been convinced to do something that benefits the corporations, which is nothing new in America. This has been happening for a long, long time, going back to Central America and so forth. So, but we all as citizens blame our government, where I blame the money in the system that's polluting obviously what representation should be for us, for the people, right? So when they signed this agreement, they were actually doing what's in the best interest of the corporations and not your citizens in your area, right? Not your community.
Yes, sir.
But we all blame government because it's like the easy target. When prices went up during COVID, and we thought it was inflation. No, most of it, or more than half of it, was corporations raising their profit margins. But we said whoever was in office, that person's to blame. It's inflation. No, it was greed. So
Price gouging, ain't it? Ain't that what it's called?
Price gouging. We were essentially, so we're always being convinced by media, by corporations, to blame our government. When anything goes wrong, what's happening behind the scenes, and that's why I always talk about this, is that if we really want to bring representation back to the people, you have to get rid of the money. The people have to come first. Our representatives have to take in their communities first and foremost. And then after that, they should consider, because you need to have a strong economy. You want strong companies. You want strong growth. But then after that, they should take in the consideration of the companies and our economy overall. But when you're just serving the best interests of the corporations, you get what happened in the 1990s and the 2000s, where you lost all your manufacturing in your area. And then people were down and out in their luck, just was like happening in West Virginia when the coal mining goes away and there's nothing to replace it. Those people get screwed, right? But we all blame government. My point is, yes, you can blame part of government for that, but it's not truly, they're not the root cause of what happened. The root cause was greed in those companies that said, hey, if I can ship these jobs to Mexico and have the products made there, that's better for us. But it wasn't better for you.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, somebody in your comments, sassy, I don't want to say, I don't know if it's girl. Sassy girl said that she chat GTP'd it, and it was under President Bush. It started under President Bush, and then unfortunately Clinton. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't like government at all. There ain't one damn president. Fucking
Yeah, but change your wording. Change your word. Don't use the word government. Replace it with I don't like politicians.
The politicians, yeah. My papa always said a politician, there ain't no damn difference between a crook and a politician. They're all after your money. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Sassy Girl's a friend of the show, and she always has great insights.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you. It was whenever I was saying you started talking and then it came in, but I just want to let you know, she had looked it up.
You're welcome to interrupt me.
I was told that.
I sometimes ramble on too long anyway, so being interrupted sometimes gives me a break.
Yeah, well, it's just the other thing too, man, is like, and I don't agree. I don't agree with it. And all politicians are guilty of this, but one thing that really made me ill with Biden, and one time he said somebody was talking about the coal mines, and the way he stated it, he was he act like anybody can go down in a coal mine, and you got to know how much science is actually in a coal mine, to keep it from exploding, to keep it from you going into what they call dead air or methane, where you actually pass out and pass away, so on and so forth. It ain't just you. I don't know. I just feel like the way he stated it, I don't remember the verbatim, but the way he said it was, like we're just a bunch of ignorant hillbillies that can't do nothing but dig into a mountain, and it's
disrespectful.
Yeah. I always get it on this app too, because I'll start trying to talk to somebody, and the first thing I want to know is they'll say, your mom and dad is brother and sister, and all this. I'm like, y'all always go to that because you're in an accent, but anyway, I don't want to.
Even if it was true, it's none of your business, right? Even if it was true, that's none of your business.
But no, yeah, it's just that it's crazy because America ain't just one. When it come to like I've done a lot of Civil War stuff happened in our area. A lot of your states back then, because we were such a young country, they saw their states as countries. Do you know what I'm saying? It wasn't. There was rivals between like Tennessee and Missouri.
Oh, yeah,
they'd
absolutely.
always be like people from Missouri's backwards, and it was countries. They saw themselves as countries, and if you really look at it now, we still kind of the same way from cultures, is what I'm saying. There's things done that in the South different than in the North, in the rural area than in the cities. And right now, I just think that a lot of frustration with the jobs is the services cannot. It just can't go everywhere. And the one other thing, man, and I don't know if you agree with me, but I absolutely hate how much we push college on kids instead of trades. Because I don't know how old you are, sir, but I'm 46. And when I was coming up through high school, that's whenever computers started really kind of picking up the pace. And everybody's we need computer programmers, and everybody I went to high school with, or I was in the Army and they got out, they were like, I'm going to become a programmer. Well, I feel like Gen X, maybe some of the beginning of millennials, what we did is we flooded the market with the technology, because we went to college, we did get the degrees, and we flooded the market into that. And I feel like we push college so much, and it comes from the government because of you can't go bankrupt on that loan. You know what I'm saying? The student loans, you can't file bankruptcy on it. And I just don't think it's right to push college, because a lot of kids at 18, do you know what you were wanting to do when you were 18, dude? I didn't. That's why I joined the army.
I
You
still
know, I was
don't.
like, you know what I'm saying? And it's such a, oh, hey, just sign here and you're going to be in debt at $60,000. And then the way they sugarcoat it, because I've been with my soldiers when they go up there, and they'll sugarcoat it. They'll say, oh, well, you don't have to start to pay it until you graduate. Well, the kids are thinking about right now, and they're like, oh, well, that's 4 years from now. That's nothing. 4 years from, but in 4 years, as soon as you graduate, that's when them payments start. They don't wait until you get a job.
Right.
Anyway, sorry, man.
Oh, I
know-
don't necessarily disagree at all. Actually, but I think the problem is you got to remember what are universities? They're not public institutions necessarily. They're really more like private corporations.
Corporations.
They're for profit.
They were talking about one time about the colleges that the students kind of raised the price themselves too, because the colleges, like you were saying with the corporation side, is a kid will be like, well, I want mine to have a spa and a rock wall, and they're like, okay, yeah, we'll build it, but the thing is you're paying for it when you come to that school. You're paying for that rock wall or whatever.
Well, we you can make the argument for trade schools too. We have tons of trade schools, right? So, whether it's a trade school or it's for a profession like being a doctor or a lawyer, like I would argue, instead of putting them in debt, because that doesn't do us that's not good for us. It's good for them. It's good for these private corporations that make a lot of money, meaning universities. Why don't we, just like private healthcare? I know, being in your area, you're probably going to be opposed to this, and you're going to say, well, that's a crazy liberal idea. It's not. It's investing in your society. So, if you give out free healthcare to everybody, right? If you think of it as a right, it's investing in your citizens, because if they're healthy, then they can work more and they're going to pay more taxes. That's good for a society. So, but a lot of people on the red side don't think you should have health care. And you could make an argument, again, it sounds crazy liberal, but why are we putting people in debt? If someone wants to educate themselves, why do they have to go into debt? Whether it's a trade school or for a profession, if you invest in those people and give them an opportunity to learn a trade, and they don't have to pay for it, or they pay less, a lot less, because the government helps them, or whether it's to become a doctor or an attorney, you are setting those people up. So you're investing in our people, in our whole society, to become smarter, to become trained, to become knowledgeable in something where they then can go out and get a job, pay their taxes, and that money comes back so much more. So again, these are called crazy progressive liberal ideas, but they're not. They're just sensible things, because government should invest in its people. And you could call it socialism. That particular industry, like healthcare, maybe it would be better to have a socialized healthcare. I would argue absolutely would be. But that doesn't mean the country is moving towards socialism, because we're never going to move to socialism. We have vibrant capitalism in this country. It just means certain industries should be more protected by government, because it's good for all of us. So when the textile industries left your area, well, there was no government intervention probably, but instead, if they were going to do NAFTA properly and said, okay, we're going to go to a more globalized system, we're going to produce things otherwise, how about we retrain our people to have jobs in something else that they can do, instead of just leaving them out to like, hey, sorry, your industry's gone, you're out of luck. Now you're going to, resort to, as you say, D-rugs.
Well, I had a crazy idea once, and I guess it might be on your side of the aisle or whatever. But
I'm in the middle, just so you know. But even though I have some progressive views, I also have a lot of conservative views.
Majority of people, I was saying this earlier today, majority of people are independent. You just lean one way or the other. Very rare are you way over on the spectrum on one side or the other. But anyway. Was the same thing that you were saying is, when you go to look at these college courses, a lot of times there's classes you're just like, why does this person need to know this in order to get this degree? So just hear me out. What I'm saying is like in my area, right? Certain things died, but other things came into that area, right? Well, people will be like, well, I don't have the money to go learn this. And like you were saying, I'd much rather invest in you and pay for your education, for you to go and get this skill. Because at the end of the day, once you get the skill and you get a job, you pay something everybody pays, and that's taxes. instead of doing the whole give a man the fish, where I'm talking about more of the welfare state, because if I keep giving you fish, I'm always going to be paying you and paying you and paying you. But if I teach you that skill, then you're going to help the rest of the economy out by, when you eventually get this skill and get your job, because this other job now exists and your old job doesn't. You're paying taxes and you're paying back into the system, which is helping the system instead of. And I'm not going to call anybody that needs these systems a leech. But I'm just saying, like, where you're just constantly pulling from the system and not giving back to, I don't know. I don't want to offend
Not to
anyone,
be
but
you're not being a productive citizen.
yeah. And again, when that person goes and gets their car and stuff like that, man, come on, man. Everybody knows, like, I used to call them sticker tires when I bought tires, because we always buy them used. And when I got them new, I would tell them, hey, leave the stickers on there. And I would put them around town, and everybody would be like, "Ooh, dog, look at him. He got them sticker tires," because that meant like he paid like $800-900 for them suckers,
And most of you guys, well, most of the South's in trucks, so they're pretty
Oh, yes,
pricey.
sir.
You
Yes,
see,
sir.
but we're always being manipulated to fight like city versus rural, right? Farmers versus urban areas versus rural areas. Like, yeah, like you mentioned earlier, different cultures form based on the people they're around and how many people are around. So the city culture ends up being more progressive, but we need big cities. They're really important. And oh, by the way, yeah, we need rural farmers because they're literally the lifeline of the entire every American, right? And we discredit these sometimes people who are on the right side who may not be highly educated as in, college level, but they are very skilled and very knowledgeable about their world's views. And yet we oftentimes, will discredit them for their, more simple culture that they have. But the end of the day is we need farmers. We need people in urban areas. We need services and we need industry and we need all these things. And like, it's okay not to like, hey, if you're a country boy and you don't want to live in a city, cool. You grew up as a country boy, stay as a country boy. But there's other people that grew up in urban areas that are always going to be city people, right? And it's all great. But for some reason, we all fight with each other and say, well, those cities are so progressive, like they're tearing our country apart. No, they're not. They're just living a different life that maybe you haven't been a part of, and that's cool, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's north versus south. It's cities versus the rural area, because like I don't know how many times they've come to our area. Trump, Biden, or even our governors, Youngkin, whatever his name is.
Mhm.
They come and they'll be like, "Oh, we didn't forget about you, Southwest Virginia, and we're gonna bring businesses in." And then it's like, wow, wow, wow. As soon as they get in the office, it's like, "Who were you again?" Oh, like, dude, you promised us all this stuff underneath the sun, and now it's just like, oh well.
Rich says it here. The system is built on division. It really is. Like everything becomes two things: McDonald's versus Burger King, North versus South, country boys versus city people, left versus right. Everything has to be a division, and it's just because division gets attention.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too is with the media. You were hitting it earlier. Was the media, man? If you've been in the military or around military or psychological, what I mean by like people that are psychiatrists or psychologists or had it in school. What we see in media is it's called psyops in the Army, psychological operations. And what we do is before we go into a country, we start sending flyers and we get radio. We go over radio or TV. And we tell them how bad their country is or how bad their government is, president, whatever, because we're trying to win them to our side to help us as we invade. They're helping us, because it's less people you got to fight. You don't have to fight the people. You're just fighting that other military or government.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same thing that's happening to us. That they go off they play on a lot of emotion. You know what I mean? Because if I feel a certain way, then I'm tied into that emotion. Or tied into that subject, and it splits us, like you were saying. It splits us down the middle, and they know what like. I'm Christian, right? So they I'm pro-life, and so they they go to extremes on stuff. Well, if we if we let A B happen, then it's going to be this, this, and this. You
Yeah,
know what I
all the
mean?
slippery slope nonsense, right?
Yeah. If we sign alcohol in, then we're going to have a bunch of prostitutes running around town. You know what I mean? And so everybody wants to keep the county dry.
Well, we have to leverage human nature in the same way, whether you call it psyops or propaganda or whatever else. Like what I'm trying to do on this show, Mr. Global and Nick, we can have these really awesome, cordial conversations. We come from different backgrounds and so forth, but we have to realize, instead of fighting ourselves about all this division, is realize that we have to have a common enemy. Maybe that's not the best way to say it, but it's the reality.
Opponent.
An opponent, and the opponent is the greed behind the corporations, behind the foreign interests, behind the foreign agents, and all the special interests, corporate special interests, right? And even the religious fascist groups, so not Christians, but like Christian nationals that have a perverted view of Christianity. And then you even have like the technocrats, which I call the corporate dictators. That's our common opponents, all those people, because they're the ones that are polluting our minds. They own the media, right? They control a vast amount of money. They own the media narrative. They own most social media platforms, and the technocrats now are owning most of AI. So our common opponent should be leveraging these sort of division tactics, if you want to call them that we should be realizing that, if we took out all the money out of the system and these politicians, we could have real, just decent, regular Americans that actually represent your area for your constituents. Everything else will fix itself.
Yeah, AI, I think is going to be the most dangerous thing, man, because like I saw a thing where they were talking about your customer service, stuff like that. It's going to be stolen by AI. And then I was like, yeah, I'll be safe, like us carpenters and stuff like that. I'll be damned if they didn't show a video of China and these they're building buildings with robots, and I was like, this is some shit, man. Like nothing is safe.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to cuss on your show, man. Sorry.
Cussing's okay, I think, as long as it doesn't get out of hand and it's not directed at someone. I don't think the TikTok moderators.
20 years of Army, man.
I imagine those little robots are going to be out in the fields picking food is probably what they're going to be doing.
Well, I just think that if AI was used correctly, it'd be a great thing. Like you were saying something about like curing cancer or something, because it might think on a different level than what a human brain can think on. You know what I mean? As far as trying to find something like that. But if we don't protect it, then what's going to happen? You know what I mean?
It's going to be used for nefarious purposes, just like social media has done, right? Social media was supposed to be like, we're going to connect the world. And here's a good story for you, everybody. I remember very vividly being in my apartment in 1997 in Connecticut, and I was using Netscape Navigator right around 97, and I was just newly married. And I'm so into the internet and all these websites and all this stuff on Netscape Navigator. And this was like right after AOL. And I was always into politics and civics and paying attention, at least to some extent. And I turned to her and I said, for now on, everyone's going to be able to know the truth. All they have to do is look it up, and the truth is going to be right there for them. So all this division they're creating in politics is going to go away because we're all going to know the truth. Holy shit, was I wrong?
Yeah.
Master manipulators.
Right. I was totally thinking like rationally, like critical thinking. Oh, right. We're all smart enough. We're all going to know the truth. It's no more lies. Holy shit. How effed up was I to think that?
It went the polar opposite.
Well, they said that in the Army, they said that this, when we go to classes and stuff, like, so with technology, the more technology you get, the speed of the battlefield gets faster, right? And you've heard this before with the news. A lot of times, the speed of information is moving so fast, it is false information. I'm not saying not all news, but it does get pushed out there, and then the truth comes out, but it's already done the false part's already done its damage because it's moving so fast. Before somebody can verify it, it's already pushed out because they want to be the first ones. All of them are guilty. I don't give a shit.
The Russian culture is famous for thousands of years of propaganda, even before technology, of just having so much misinformation. That's where the term basically, I forget what the term for misinformation in Russian is, but this is nothing new other than it's like 10,000 times more efficient now because of how easy it is to spread information. But the same tactic using to divide and conquer, just like you're using in PSYOPs, is the same propaganda that's been being used for thousands of years. Just like I said, just happens so much more faster these days, right?
I have family members that are performing psyops in my own family. They, like
Yeah.
you have a conversation with your dad or your mom and their perspective of what's going on, and you're like, where are you even coming from? That's not what happened at all. That's what it feels like in today's world. It feels like the government's just like lying to us to keep us in place.
We just have to remember who owns all these media platforms and everything else. They're being more and more consolidated ever since the fairness doctrine went away. All the consolidations having by big corporations, and who owns big corporations? There's usually one person behind it, and that person usually has some political bias. So whether it was Ted Turner or Rupert Murdoch or anybody else, at the end of the day, it comes from that one person that's behind the scenes that has some agenda. And those people always have one agenda, that's to make more money. And they usually use some form of, you want to call it psyops or propaganda, to get a certain tribe to follow them, right? I just want to say to Michigan Mom 87, thanks for this platform. We have to have more conversations like this. I appreciate it. And I just want to do a quick housekeeping item is, I know there's only 33 people watching these lives. I really enjoy doing the lives and speaking to real people on a, directly versus just doing videos. So you may think there's just 34 people here. That's okay. I still enjoy it. It's not a lot of people, but please share my videos, especially the most recent video that has about 250,000 plus views, and any of the pinned videos, because that has a much bigger objective. Like, we're talking about Ted Turner and Rupert Murdoch having motives and objectives. I have one too. It just happens to be that it's not nefarious. Like, my agenda and my motives are much more pure. They were about bringing Americans together to fight against all these forces that are trying to divide us. So I can't do it without the 3 guests that are here today, right now, and the 36 people, and obviously the thousands of times that last video was reposted. We have to get to 1 million people. It's really important that we repost that information because, like I said, I can't do it without everyone joining. And I hope there's thousands of more people that are trying to unite versus divide. So the more messages that we have, like this platform that I'm using, that most people seem to enjoy because we're having cordial conversations. Like this one right here, you rock, brother. Thank you very much. You do too. And Rich, thank you as well. At the end of the day, I have an objective, a mission. It might sound crazy. I don't care if you think it's impossible. At least I'm trying to do something, and that's trying to unite 50 million people together to eliminate corruption from our political system and replace all career politicians from both parties. So people will say it's impossible. It's not. It just requires a big enough group of people, 50 million, that say, we're sick of this red versus blue shit. We're sick of the North versus South. We're sick of the rich versus poor is actually a legitimate one, but we're sick of everything creating division. And we know both parties, and that's the point of this topic today, the two-party system is not working for the people, for everyday Americans, we the people, and that if we want to change it, we either have a simple choice. Either we can just turn our heads and walk away from it and just say, hey, we're screwed, or we can actually start thinking about doing something and uniting behind. So we have, obviously, what's your name here? Appalachian American. Okay. So someone obviously from rural America, which I've spent a lot of time in as well, not fully really super rural. I've spent time there, but it doesn't matter. We're all Americans. And we know the common enemy or common opponent is greed and all these special interest corporations, billionaires, foreign governments, foreign agents, Christian nationals, again, has nothing to do with Christianity, the Christian nationals, and so forth. And that's what I'm trying to, call it preaching if you want. Someone said it was mansplaining earlier in the comments, because in one of my videos, like, when you're pointing at a woman, it's mansplaining. It's like, oh, stop. That's like one of the definitions of woke. Like, stop with the political correctness. Yes, I'm a guy. I am trying to explain things to people and help them come together. And yet we have to define things as men versus women's because I'm a guy and I'm speaking my thoughts Now I'm mansplaining.
I
It's just so
don't
absurd,
even, I wouldn't even entertain it, TK. That's so 2023.
right?
Like, I'm over that stuff, you know? Let's move on.
Right, but
They
that's
just
sort of
want to
a
bog us
hardcore
down.
liberal view, and someone coming from a women that we're tired of guys telling us. Well, I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just giving you my thoughts. Like, and I just thought it was funny. I kind of laughed at it, like, oh God, come on, we have so many more important issues to deal with. So that's
Like
my
I was
piece.
saying,
Yeah, go ahead.
like I was saying with we're in the center, man. It's like, don't get me wrong, like I lean right, but here's the thing: like I grew up on welfare, you know, with my mom and Section 8 housing and everything, and I think that we have to have a system, but the system that we have currently is broke, man. And I'll give you the example why I say it's broke. Is, you know, my mom was a single mother, raised 3 kids, living in Section 8 housing, right? And you remember when the Nintendo and Super Nintendo and all that came out, I was your average boy. I wanted it, you know, Well, if mom picked up a second job and started working and getting too much, the moment she made $1 too much, they pulled the food. It was back in food stamps. They pulled the food stamps and the insurance. And I, you know, with $1, there's no what is it called, subsidized or whatever, where like if you make $1, they take 2 or whatever, but there's none. And then what do? You teach people to stay poor. I don't know if you ever seen the documentary The Wonderful Whites of West Virginia,
I
but
have not.
the whole family has learned how to live off the government systems. They know how they work. So as soon as they turn 18, they get on those systems, and they do. I'm saying they do it nefariously or whatever, you know. But you can't say, "Well, I'm here to help you," but as soon as you as soon as you start to get a leg up, oh well, I'm going to jerk the whole carpet out from underneath you. Does that make sense? Like, I'm all about. I mean, I don't want to see nobody starve or anything. And hell, like I said, I was raised on it. But the system is. That's why I was telling you earlier today. The government sucks when it tries to do something.
Well,
I'm sorry, but I'm just saying it tends to overcorrect or whatever.
similar to you, Appalachian, I when my parents got divorced, my mom was a single mom and she worked a retail job and she could hardly afford anything. And for many years, holidays, Thanksgivings, Christmases, you know, there wasn't a lot of presents under the tree, and we had to rely heavily on the churches around us to provide us food just because it was so rough. So I can assimilate with that sentiment.
Yeah, and like I told you earlier, Appalachian, just try and replace the word government with politics, certain politics, because demonizing government is in all of our worst interest. It's not in our best interest. Like just replacing the word government with something else, because we all do it. We've all used that word, and there's just nothing else. We should all be striving to hold government and our politicians accountable, and we should be demanding more efficient and more effective government. But government will always be bureaucracy and have its problems. But man, without government, man, we are screwed. You just gotta, government. There's governments around the world that have 80% approval ratings. They like their governments, right? Because their governments are not taking money from corporations first; they're putting the people first. So it's really simple. If you get decent people into government, and those people will always put their people first because they're not there to enrich themselves, I promise you, you will have highly efficient, much more efficient government than we have right now. It's really a simple formula. Put people in office with moral integrity. Don't have to do litmus tests on what their issues are and things of that like. Just make sure that they can't enrich themselves in politics and make sure they can't stay in politics too long. If you can just do that, you will have a wildly more effective government than you will have today. And like Big Kev's here says right here, statesmen versus politicians. That's a great way to phrase it. We need to have people that are statesmen versus politicians, and they just need to be temporary statesmen as well. Like, it's not that complicated when you really boil it down. And like, how do you fix this thing? It comes down to just putting good people in government, and you'll have better government. You put bad people in government, and you're going to have shit government.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier about I said Nancy Pelosi. I wasn't attacking the Democrats on it. I'm just saying that she's very old and she's very rich. What does she have in common with me? Nothing.
Nothing.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like, her time has came and her time has gone. Like, it's time to get people that's younger because the younger people feel the effects of the economy is what I'm basically saying. You know what I mean? They have more in common with the common person of, rent being high, electricity, the water, so on and so forth, whatever.
Well, American
the
here,
system.
American here in the comments says, how do we tell the difference? Which I think he's referring. How do you tell the difference between someone who has moral integrity and wants to serve the people versus not? I don't even know if there is a ways, but I think you actually don't have to worry about it as much, because if you can't go to office to make yourself famous or to enrich yourself, someone who's indecent probably doesn't want to be in office anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're indecent, you're there for your own self-interest. But if you can't enrich yourself there, you're not going to want to be there. So you end up getting, like just what happens in politics now. You tend to get people that have more self-interest going into politics these days because they can go there with their own personal motives. But if you eliminated those motives, then I don't think you really have to worry about it as much.
I mean, people that reflect the masses the best. Obviously, I messed up with the Donald Trump thing. I mean, he does not reflect the mass majority of Americans. I mean, I don't think that man's ever really had to struggle in his entire life.
Right. Hey,
And I
listen,
fell for the trap.
like we talked about earlier, if you're not buying your own groceries, you're not filling up your own gas tank, and you're not, raising your own kids and shit, I don't want you in government, really. Like, come on. I want people that go to school, have kids, live in regular communities and not behind the gates and aren't flying around in private jets and all that stuff. Like, that's not, you can't represent your constituents if you don't live similar lives to them.
Well, that's what I feel like the biggest obstacle for a three-party, trying to get independence in there is because these super PACs. I mean, hell, man, a common person can't run for president. You got to have millions and millions of dollars these days to, the plane trips and the commercials and all this stuff. I mean, and nothing comes free. As soon as you accept $1 million from somebody, that red phone's going to ring at some point and be like, "Hey, I want a favor." Remember me when I gave you that $1 million? But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that the forefathers thought that what they were building, because they couldn't see everything. They were like, "Oh, well, we'll make it to where the common man can be, in Congress and so on and so forth." But it's grew from that now to where you have to have a crap ton of money or a super PAC behind you.
Yep.
And let me ask you, since
Yeah.
you're on the left, what the fuck was Bernie? Why is it that Bernie was doing better than Clinton and he got pushed to the back, and then he was doing better than what's her name? Well, it was Biden, and then went to what?
Hillary.
Yeah, I mean, why is Bernie because I think he has good ideas, and he does pretty good as far as the numbers. But then they have him. What's that called? Where you say, "Hey, I want all my voters to vote for this person" or whatever.
Super delegates.
Oh, I'm saying when you back out. When you back out and you say, "Hey,
Oh,
I want y'all to vote."
you endorse, when you endorse a candidate.
Yeah, but what's up, man? I mean, it's your side. What they got against Bernie?
It ain't my side. I've never been on the side. I don't have tribes. I sit in the middle.
Well, okay. Well, this left.
No, you think
I
so?
never
See,
understood what's up.
that's the point. So I know I talked about a couple progressive issues today, trying to talk, but I've never been part of any tribe. I've never been registered Republican, Democrat. I've voted for a lot of Republicans in the past, and I voted for a lot of Democrats. So I just want to be clear about that. But what happened was there's super delegates, and you have a Democratic Party that's flawed, just like the Republican Party. They have their favorites. They have super delegates, and they are also being bought and paid for by different corporations. So when those corporations have influence with the Democratic Party, so they wanted Clinton, which is absurd. Like Clinton wasn't, Hillary, she wasn't popular. She, she wasn't popular at all. So but Bernie actually had a populist view that was getting a lot of traction until they basically undermined him. And just like the Republican Party did with Bush back in the second Bush in 2000, there was John McCain and others running against George Bush who were much more popular figures. But the Republican Party did something similar. It's like, no, we're going to make it, all the airtime and as much exposure as Bush could get. And while they primaried each other, at the end of the day, the cast was, the die was cast already, both in the Bush case and in the Clinton case. And then again, with Biden pulling out, and then you don't have a primary, and I understand it was really late, but then you put in the vice president who was appointed vice president, who, listen, I'm not going to discredit her credibility, but she certainly is not popular, was never even close to winning the nomination, and yet they put her up. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, they shoot themselves in their own foot, the parties, many of the times. And we're in this situation because of the parties and because of the corruption by the parties, right? There's no fairness. There's no transparency or limited transparency in these things that are happening.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, man. I voted for Obama, and I'm not just saying that for nothing. I call him the silver-tongued devil because every time he came on TV, I'd be like, I hate this son of a, you know what? And then as soon as he started talking, I'd be like, man, I agree. I really agree with what you, hell yeah, man. I don't know how, he just is a good talker, man. He's a smooth operator because he gets up there and he'd change my mind in a heartbeat. I don't know if it makes sense to you, but
But he was a man with he was a man with values. He had integrity. He has values and integrity.
I'm not saying he didn't.
But he cared about people. Like, I would much rather, like, people discredit him. He was really weak on foreign policy. What he allowed, some of the side deals, and you could almost blame what's happening in Ukraine about us being so weak under the Obama administration. What's happening in the world today? I don't have a problem with that, but. I don't understand the hate. I voted for Obama as well, and he's a man with moral integrity, and maybe he didn't like all the sort of policies, but he was also compromised by his party and by the legislature branch and things that they do. Like, he's still compromised as well for the same reasons, even though he was someone with higher moral integrity than, I would argue, the current guy. Well, I don't have to argue it. It's fact.
Well, Bush, what I liked about Bush, even though he couldn't talk to save his damn life, I mean, the guy just, I don't know, I just shook my head anytime he had a microphone in front of him. But
he went to Yale.
He at least, the one good thing I think is he stood on business. He said we're going to go to Iraq. We went in Iraq. Now, was it right or wrong? I'm just saying he stood on business. Now with Obama, the one thing I didn't like is he, a lot of times, in my opinion, now I'm not saying this is, but everybody's got opinions, is that he would draw a line in the sand and then back up and draw another line.
Right. That's what I talked about. Right. That was weak.
Yeah. Just stand on it,
Right. Well,
I don't know. I guess it might be the military in me. You know what I mean? Just stand on business. You might be right or wrong. You learn from if you're wrong. Hopefully you're intelligent enough to learn if you're wrong and learn from it. But to be guessy, I can't stand that.
Well, I don't have a problem with people changing their minds as long as they give some rationale why they're doing it, and it's based in some, further education or understanding of a topic, and whether you. But, if it happens all the time, but again, you look at Bush with Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney was the one basically running government behind Bush, and he was the one convincing.
Well, Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
You know about KBR, right?
What's KDR? No.
KBR is what was giving us food in Iraq. They were big in Iraq and Afghanistan. They were in charge of our food, cooking for us. Logistics. Just think of logistics. Everything was washing our laundry. They have laundry services and stuff for us when we're over there. So basically, I don't know if you've ever seen an Army person's laundry bag. It's not a very big bag, and we would give our laundry to them, and they, for $100 a bag, they literally didn't even take it out of the bag. They just threw it in a washer and washed it, and then threw it in a dryer and dried it and handed it back to you, and your shit was all wrinkled and everything. And then just to that was $100 they charged, for that. Yeah. And then like when you went to go work for them, I think it was UAE, like you flew into UAE and you it was like a 5-star hotel and all, everything, and you had jet skis and all this, I'm telling you, and he was on the board. Sorry, he was like, I forget what forgive me, but he had something to do with KBR. And that's why KBR kept on doing the contracts. Well, when Obama came in, KBR went away because Obama, they moved this other company in called Fluor. But the government, the waste on that side, I can tell you, I went to a place called DRMO. It's like a junkyard for the Army, for the military. And we were, this is when we were shrinking down towards the end of the war, 2015. And we had to get rid of a bunch of stuff. Like all this stuff that we acquired over all these years, they want to get rid of it. So we take it to this junkyard. Brother. So like if I'm just going to say, like, you got a company ABC and they're supposed to provide power, like when you look at this electrical going down the road, that's the type of power we run, right? And they lose their contract and XYZ comes in, they could have all the wire they need in country. XYZ orders more. And then that wire goes into a junkyard and the locals cut that wire up into small pieces, into smaller pieces and smaller pieces to get rid of it. So we just waste and waste. I saw them take
that's
hammers to iPads.
That's also defense contractors, and all the contractors who work for the military are also incentivized to charge the government more, and to, like, this is the same for-profit bullshit that happens, right? That they're trying to, and they have to report quarterly earnings if they're a public company, and no one wants to see earnings go down. So there's so much graft, right? So much graft in government by, let's say, the defense industry, or even the pharma industry, or every industry has their hands in the pocket of government. And again, it all comes down to the influence of their money, which is, basically lobbying, or paid lobbying is legalized bribery. And, again, it all comes down to the same thing. Everything we talked about today comes down to the same thing. It's the manipulation by money and greed in our system. Like, you could probably name another 100 different things, and it's all going to come back to the same root cause, right?
Yeah. I just look it up when you got some free time. KBR.
Okay.
Just Kilo Bravo Romeo. You'll be like, what the hell?
No,
But anyway, man, I'm going to get off here because I've been the mouth of the South, and I don't want to take over your life. I'll jump back in when I see you again or something, man.
All right. Appreciate
But
you.
hey,
Appreciate being here.
I do like your page because y'all, even though we might have different ideas, I'm not attacked. These other places you go in and it's like 8 people just waiting. It's like piranhas, and as soon as you jump in the pool, it's like yeah. You can't even say
Gangbusters.
nothing.
They're on your ass like grass. Yep.
Yep.
But anyway,
All right. Thanks,
I
man.
think you got something good going on, brother.
I appreciate it,
You have
brother.
a good night.
You too. Thank you. Crazy Veggies, you just been hanging out. You want to say anything before we shut down for the evening?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think I agree with what he just said, though. I think you got a pretty good thing going here. There's a lot of people on here that are trying to do this, like be kind of like, coming up with like a new idea, or trying to spread like more of a positive message, and I think it's hard to do, because it's hard not to be pulled one way or the other. So
Yeah.
I think that this is what the country needs for sure.
We have to be we all have to be avoid being pulled into rat poison, right? Or rat poison of these issues. And again, they're not important issues. They're important issues, but they're just, they pale in comparison to what, if you watch me, I apologize in advance. If you're here watching this, you're going to hear me say a lot of the same things over probably another 1,000,000 times. But that's just the way this goes. Like, if we really want to do that, we're going to have to do a lot of repetitive speaking, and we're going to have to try and refine the message. So you guys, I learned from all these messages that come through in the comments, like, you're always trying to refine your message. And today's came from Mr. Global, was actually from a message that he saw in a video earlier about the 2-party system is not working. So it's like almost like we're testing a message about the system's not working. We know it. I'll probably do a video on this exact topic tomorrow, in order to see which one resonates the most. And every time I do a video, it's just basically I'm testing the waters to see, it's all around the same subject matter. So I'm not changing. I'm not just fishing for a random fish. I'm fishing for a particular message that resonates with the widest group of people, in between MAGA and liberals and everyone in between. Because if we can figure out how to really refine that message, then we may actually be able to someday get 50 million people that will actually do that. Like, and that's the beauty about some people in the South. I have a lot of friends from the South, and their simplicity of how they speak about things and their naming convention sometimes is so brilliant in its simplicity that
Hmm.
You know, some of the expressions that people in the South have, I should look some up because I can't remember on the top of my head, are just beautifully simplistic. And they just say two words and you know exactly what they're talking about in depth.
Yeah. And I often imagine a world where we have a huge conflict and there's a city that's under siege. And you know those country boys, those southern country boys that are in the mountains, they're gonna come out of those woods in the green and they're not gonna care who you are. They're gonna help you. And they want to because they're good people.
Yep. All right. Well, crazy veggies. Time for grab some dinner. Thank you for joining the show. You're welcome, of course, anytime. Thank you, everybody else, for leaving the comments. Please remember the likes and the follows and go to my profile. Anything you can do to repost videos. If you can't repost videos from TikTok to other platforms, but every video I do here is accessible also on YT. And it's much easier. So if you're on Facebook or somewhere else, you can share those YT videos more easily. And anything you can do to help share the message around unity, around opposing greed and corruption in our political system, maybe someday we get to a point where we actually can maybe have an impact.
For sure, man. I appreciate it. We'll catch you later.
Thanks, man. We'll see you soon. All right, for everybody else, again, I know there's only 28 people here, but some of the videos have been getting really nice reach, and over time, maybe I'll get out of TikTok jail, because there was a while there where my lives were having 400 or 500 people for a couple of weeks, and then for some reason it went down. So I don't know. I might still be in the penalty box for being banned for that one day a couple of weeks ago. I don't, you know, who knows how the algo works.
Yeah. What has been your like highest viewed live? Do you know or have
About 500 concurrent, just under that.
500 concurrent?
450 concurrent, and you know, maintaining between 2 and 450 for a while. Well, not a while, for about a week or two, because I haven't been doing this that long. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I can reach, I'm just getting started and I get 400 people. Lately, it's been less, and I'm not talking about anything different. So who knows?
Interesting. I didn't know it was that much different.
Yeah, it was only about a
So that is
week,
a
but
lot.
that was like my first week. The first week that I was doing lives, it was actually really productive. And I was like, oh, this is going to be really cool. I can grow with the audience faster. But then I got that 1-day ban. And since then, well, it happened a little bit before then too, but really since then, it seems like something was going on. But I've seen that in videos as well. Like videos just don't get much reach, but maybe they're just not that good of videos, and then one will blow up. I don't know.
Well, I have faith it'll turn around. So you've got my support. I'm not going to vote for anybody unless they bring up the 28th or 29th Amendment. So
Let's hope that's the messaging, right? If I think it is 28th and 29th, and you just keep preaching, you just keep screaming from the rooftops, and we'll see what happens.
I appreciate it, TK.
All right. Thanks,
see you.
thanks, Shadowcat. Thanks for tuning in again. Lots of people want drama in their lives. Let's see. Val, I'm sorry I didn't get to you. I might come back later or tomorrow. American, the same. I saw those comments, Val, and American. I just got to go get some food for tonight. So I'll see you guys probably tomorrow, and we'll go from there. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening and good night.